So, not for the first time today, someone on social media asked me when I posted a link to a story, oh, well, what good does this do for us to know how bad something is? You should be focusing on telling us how to convince politicians to do this or how to create a campaign that will do that. And my answer was, well, I'm a journalist. It's not my job to tell you what to do with this information. It's my job to provide the information. And he told me to fuck off because journalists are useless. Oh, a popular chorus. Obviously, like, it's not pleasant to be told multiple times a week that journalists suck and you're useless. But the bigger picture here is that I really don't think people understand what journalists do. And for that reason, it's very easy for people to say they suck and they're worthless and we don't need them anymore. And to turn to instead, influencers or doing your own research or all of these things that we're seeing pick up a lot of steam. And I understand why people are mad at legacy media, mainstream media. I myself stopped working for a lot of mainstream newsrooms because I felt like I couldn't tell the stories I wanted to tell. I couldn't report the way I wanted to report. I couldn't tell the truth about a lot of stuff that was happening with climate. That can be true of some climate outlets too. There's definitely places that are less favorable towards, a critique of certain climate organizations or a critique of the green colonialism component to electrification in some places. Things like that, right? There's this lockstep choir kind of thing happening. So understand all of that. However, there's a fundamental role that journalists play in society that I think people have forgotten about. And I think that it's a little dangerous at a time when democracy is really being threatened in multiple places around the earth to have people be so totally media illiterate. So, a really quick primer on what a journalist is and isn't, and what we actually do for society. First, we report things. This is not the same as doing your own internet research. So when I start to report a story, I am looking for primary documents. So that is coming either from sources like within a company or within the government or things like that. Those are relationships that I have developed over time by being someone that people can trust to give information to. They know that I won't screw them over. They know that I will check the information, that I won't publish it in a way that also screws them over, those kinds of things. Other places I look for documents. Pacer, which is a government website for most of the courts in the country, including the federal courts. There are case files there that are full of documents. The appendices in a lot of case files is where the documents live. In a lot of cases, all kinds of information comes up and you can find it on Pacer. It's a terrible website, as are most government websites. I will warn you, it is not easy to use, which is why, if you know a journalist who knows how to use Pacer, trust their reporting. They are going to the source for this information, right? The other places I look, I file federal records requests. I file state level public records requests. I file public records requests of public universities, all of those kinds of things. I look at lobbying disclosures. What are other primary sources? Oh, I go to archives, corporate archives. There are loads and loads of archives that have been set up at universities by corporations that have handed over primary documents. This is actually how the entire Exxon news story came about. Exxon itself gave documents to the University of Texas at Austin to set up an archive all about ExxonMobil. And in that archive were loads of primary documents that showed that the company's own scientists were warning executives as early as the late 1970s about the impact that burning fossil fuels has on the atmosphere, what that would eventually mean, and things that they could be thinking about to try to get ahead of it. So those are all good ways that journalists will start to report a story. Then you talk to one source, they recommend another source. You talk to that person, they recommend something else. Yes, you do a little bit of internet research too. You read other stories that have been written about this. You look for examples of people's interactions with each other on social media. Weirdly, LinkedIn is a huge great reporting tool for people because you can see like who's connected to who, where people worked in the past, all of that kind of stuff, right? I'm sure I'm forgetting like a million different places, but you get the idea, right? We're doing primary research. We are finding a bunch of information. And there are a lot of content creators now who then take that information from the stories that we produce and turn it into much more accessible information. And that's great. But if the people who find the primary information in the first place go away, those people don't have an easy source of reliable information anymore. So you can see how this like starts to break down over time. The other thing we do, if you're a legit news source, is fact check. I annotate the shit out of every single story that I write. My kid was looking over my shoulder the other day as I was doing this, and he was like, Jesus, Mom, you can't write a single word without saying where it came from. Yeah, that's the job. I have a separate person, not me, not my editor, go through all of that and challenge everything I'm saying. She's constantly like, where did you get this from? What about this? I don't know if this source you've provided actually really backs up what you're saying. Like, those are the kinds of challenging questions you want your fact checker to be asking you. Then it goes to legal review, and my lawyer asks challenging questions as well. So it's going through multiple phases of people really kicking the tires to make sure that I am putting out verified information. That is generally not happening at a lot of even news outlets. So when you're looking for a reliable source of information, you want to know that it's coming from someone who's really doing their due diligence to make sure that what they're saying is true. And again, there are a lot of really great content creators who are very good about this. Shout out to the guys at Climate Town. They do great research. They're not the only ones. They're just the ones I thought off the top of my head. But if someone is not doing that, if it's just them like finding stuff out and giving their hot take, I don't know how helpful that is to our information ecosystem. And like I said, as more and more people kind of get this in their minds of like, oh, well, you know, this person has a bigger audience and they have more influence and they're doing really cool, entertaining videos and this, that, and the other, I'm going to fund that person, or I'm going to subscribe to that person and forget all of these, you know, boring journalists. The real risk there is that, yeah, we do lose the people who are actually like gathering up the source material. And that's important too. It's important for creators. I think most creators would tell you that they would be, you know, up shit's creek if they weren't able to tap into other resources for their content. Some of them are trying to go out and do the reporting themselves. Some of them are reporters themselves. There are plenty of independent reporters who have also become content creators. That's great. Again, not throwing shade at content creators. I'm not even saying that there isn't plenty to criticize journalists for. However, if you don't even know what we do, then it would be good to learn. And what we do is provide an exhaustive resource to a lot of other people who are getting various things out of that research. So there you go. Next time you shit on a journalist online, just know that they're spending like hundreds of hours doing free librarian work for the internet.